Hola, soy la señora Quintanilla. I'm a New York City World Languages high school teacher, and today together we will talk about infinitives and gerunds. What? What? Por ejemplo, ahora mismo yo estoy hablando y te estoy explicando cuáles son las diferencias entre los infinitivos y los gerundios. Y tú estás mirando y escuchando este video y probablemente tomando apuntes también. I know even I get confused with these sometimes. But the infinitives are simply verbs that in English have the to in front of them, like to dance or to eat or to sleep. That in Spanish, see how they end in AR, ER, and IR? If you see that a verb ends in AR, ER, and IR in Spanish, it means that it's an infinitivo. How about the gerundio? The gerundio form of a verb is the gerund. In English, they're more commonly known as ing verbs, like dancing, eating, sleeping. You see how in Spanish they all end with ando, yendo, and yendo? Don't worry too much about this asterisk. It just means that this O changes to a U in some verbs. The gerund form of a verb in Spanish describes what is currently happening. So we pair the gerund with the verb estar. Remember we learned about ser and estar in video 16? You will use these gerund verbs when you start working on your 3.2 lesson. The gerund and the infinitive have parallel uses in English and in Spanish, but there are also very important differences between the two languages. Both forms are invariable. That just means that they do not change regardless of their position in a sentence. Remember that in the past we've talked about how verbs do transform in Spanish. Some people call them conjugations. It's the same thing. But the infinitive and the gerund are invariable. They do not change. To help us understand this idea that infinitive and gerunds are invariable, I would like for us to think of infinitive verbs are on standby verbs. Verbs that are ready to go and be transformed, or that are ready to go and transform, or to be conjugated. Same thing with gerundios. Gerundios or ing verbs in English, just like in English, ing verbs do not transform. The same thing in Spanish. We do not transform the gerunds, we transform the estar form of the verb, which we pair up estar with the gerunds, and that's the one that we transform to describe what you or I or he or she or it is doing. For 90% of the time, English and Spanish use the infinitives and ing verbs in the same way. He needs to eat more vegetables. Él necesita comer más vegetales. Here's that to eat that I talked at the beginning of the video. That's an infinitive in English. Here's the er ending in Spanish that represents that this is an infinitive verb. I am walking in the park with my mother. Here's an ing verb, that's a gerundio that has been paired up with the verb to be. Same thing in Spanish. Yo estoy caminando en el parque con mi mamá or con mi madre. Here's caminando, that's the gerundio. This doesn't change. This is the verb that we have transformed. Yo estoy caminando en el parque con mi mamá. This is the estar that we talked about in video 16 with Dr. Eve help. The last P of her last name helps or represents an action in progress. Estoy caminando. Although English and Spanish most of the time are interchangeable with the way they use infinitive and gerund verbs, in this video, we want to focus on those times when the infinitive and the ing or gerund verbs are used differently in English. It's not that difficult. We just need to make sure that every time we use ing verbs in Spanish, we are using them because there is an action in progress happening. Always an action in progress. So when we think of words in English like swimming, as in the name of the sport, swimming, that is just the name of the sport. That is not an action that is happening now. If you're saying that you are swimming in the swimming pool every morning, then that would be an action in progress. And for that swimming, then you would need the gerundio in Spanish. I'd like to quickly go over this chart with you that hopefully will be helpful when we have to decide whether we need to use gerunds or infinitives. Okay, so to use the gerund, we need to use it, like I said before, for actions that are in progress, happening right now. More than 90% of the time, that's when we use gerundio in Spanish, as in estar. Lisa está estudiando. Yeah. Okay. We also use gerunds when we're using the verb seguir or continuar, right? Keep going, kept singing, continued walking. También utilizamos nosotros usamos gerundio en esta ocasión. So that we have two right now, an action that is happening or in progress, and then for other verbs to keep going, right? To keep going on, kept singing, kept walking, continued singing, continued walking, and to express by or while. I improve by practicing. So we have three uses of the gerundio. Yeah, the first one is very much the same English in Spanish, an action that is taking place. And then we have other verbs, continuar and seguir, kept singing, continued laughing, right? That would be gerundio. And then when we use the infinitive, so if we need to use it as a subject, for example, the sport swimming that we talked about, yeah, as a sport, the name of the sport, in this case, we would use a different one in Spanish, nothing to do with, you would not say nadando in this case, just to name the name of the sport, just to say the name of the sport. When we have a preposition, voy a salir después de comer. I'm going to leave after eating. This is a little bit more difficult to get at the novice levels, but eventually something that you can be ready for in the more advanced proficiency levels that I'm sure you will get to very soon. Practicamos un poquito. I'll give you a sentence in English and you decide if you need infinitive or gerund. See? Inside the box, I have included the three instances in which we use gerund in Spanish, right? With the verb estar, when there's an action going on in progress at this time, with the verbs seguir and the verbs continuar, and when we want to express by, like by doing, by improving, by sending. Okay? Right, here's your first sentence. I don't like studying. Which one would you prefer? Which one would you choose? La caja amarilla, the yellow box. Did you get it right? Okay, so in this case, is studying, it's a gerund, but it is not being used with the verb estar. It's not the verb seguir or the verb continuar. And I am not expressing by studying, by preparing. Therefore, in Spanish, we would say, no me gusta estudiar. We would change this ing verb into an infinitive. Here is one last one. Deciding is difficult most of the time. We're going to focus on this ing verb. You have your information here, and now you have to decide if you are using this one or this one. I'll give you a second to think. Which one did you choose? The yellow one? You're correct. Okay? Decidir casi siempre es difícil. Decidir. In this case, this is not accompanied by estar, so it's not an action in progress happening right now. We don't have the verb seguir or the verb continuar. We're not expressing by deciding I become this or by deciding I make a choice. None of that. So we need the yellow box. Fortunately, that's pretty much it. If you can picture the box that was helping us in our practice slides, or if you can have it handy, then you will be able to figure out when to use an infinitive and in the confusing cases, and when to use ing verbs, gerundios. Just by keeping this in mind or keeping it handy will improve your Spanish tremendously, and pretty soon you will be able to speak with more advanced students in the language or heritage speakers or even native speakers. Thank you so much for your time. I hope you found this video entertaining and I hope that you learned something new. Hasta la próxima. Nos vemos pronto.